Hi, Tiffany, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see your PowerPoint.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you all for being in on the Zoom meeting. We're just going through some chat features right now, so thank you for your patience. Okay, welcome. I'm Beatrice Bronco. I'm the Sanitation Operations Manager for Santa Cruz County. And before I begin the presentation, I have a script that I need to go over. We want to address a few key points to ensure a smooth and productive session. This meeting will be recorded for transparency and accessibility for those unable to attend this meeting. By participating, you consent to being recorded. This meeting recording will be posted on our website. Santa Cruz County respects citizens' free speech rights and has developed public meeting conduct standards to respect all meeting participants. Under these conduct standards, meeting organizers can remove disruptive individuals in person or online who engage in behavior that is slanderous, profane, threatening, or who exhibit other disorderly conduct that disrupts the meeting. To streamline the Q&A, we plan to address all questions at the end of the presentation. We will address questions in the order they are received. Please use the hand raising feature or the chat function when seeking recognition to speak at the end of the presentation. All questions and comments will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. All speakers are asked to state their name before asking their question. This will help us facilitate a smoother flow of communication throughout the meeting and ensure everyone can speak. In the unlikely event of a power outage, we will stop the meeting for 15 minutes to wait for power restoration. For those joining us virtually, if you find yourself disconnected, please attempt to reconnect. If you are unable to reconnect successfully, attempt to reconnect in 15 minutes. If the power outage persists beyond 15 minutes, we will have to reschedule the current meeting. We will communicate a new meeting date and time via email and on our social media channels. And we appreciate your cooperation and look forward to a productive meeting. So with that, I can begin. So today we're going to talk about the County Service Area number 7, Boulder Creek. I prepared a brief agenda to talk about the CSA developments, discuss a little bit about the CZU damages and the proposed improvements for this fiscal year. And then what that leads us to is then the proposed sewer service charges and then the next steps. So County Service Area number 7, this is the existing, everything in the tan color is part of CSA 7. And what we did this year is we hired Bowman and Williams to create these 2 zones. We're working with them to take on Zone 2, which is part of Big Basin Wastewater Community. It's already within the CSA 7 boundaries, and we're analyzing all of the maintenance and operation costs for maintaining that on-site wastewater treatment system for the Fallen Leaf neighborhood. We will maintain 2 separate budgets for Zone 1 and Zone 2. And this proposal will be going to the board on March 12th, in addition to these proposed sewer rate increases for both zones. So CSA number 7 was established in 1968. The sewer services include the collection and the transportation, which is the hauling of the wastewater, the treatment, and then disposal into our leach fields. And then sanitation operations, community development, and infrastructure maintains and operates the community sewer system. So during the CZU fire, as you all are aware, we lost all of our SCADA communications, our Lake Avenue pump station, our office, our generator, the digester tank sustained damages. And we were able to maintain operations of the treatment plant by hauling from that digester tank. And during that whole recovery, we were able to send wastewater into, or begin treating wastewater and send it to the leach fields around October. So service to folks was never interrupted. And it took almost 2 years to rebuild our wastewater treatment plant. The reconstruction required building permits, and then we were required to also be ADA compliant. So we had to have handicap parking accessibility, and the plans had to be reviewed by structural engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. So it was a very expensive rebuild effort. Our total contractor cost were 4.2 million. And the insurance reimbursement was 3.4 million. And we were able to successfully get some FEMA reimbursement for tree removal and hauling also, and that money was secured, and we received 289,174 for those efforts. As a result of all of this, we were able to get a new generator room. It's almost like a brand new wastewater treatment facility. So we were able to line the clarifier, the digester tank. We got a new pump station. And then also we now have a new blower building. But that all took most of the CSA's reserves that we had at the beginning of prior to this fire. So I know that back in 2020, in March, I had presented, and we had many of these improvements that we did as part of the rebuild of the wastewater treatment plant, included a new office building, the installation of blowers, and we were able to rebuild, but it took most of that funding to make up the difference from the insurance reimbursement that was not covered. So for this year, what we're proposing to do is replace the existing EQ tank. That was the one piece of equipment or structure that was not damaged in the CZU fire. The EQ tank is 53 years old. It's past its useful life. And we have a lot of trouble. The top of the tank's corroded. It's very unsafe to maintain. We cannot walk on that. And engineering staff downtown worked really hard to secure a grant. And we got a grant for $405,312. And that requires a 50% cost share. And our total cost of this new tank is about a little bit over $1 million now. We're proposing to replace it this fiscal year. And what we're planning to do is replace it with a much larger tank. So the existing tank's about 50,000 gallons. We're proposing to install a tank that will hold up to 100,000 gallons of wastewater. And this EQ tank is important in the event that there's rain events. We're able to divert some of this water because the CSA 7 collection system, as you know, has a lot of inflow and infiltration coming in through the sewer lines and the wet wells. And so by diverting flow into this EQ tank during rain events, we can prevent a sewer spill, and then we can, once things settle down, then we can begin treating the wastewater. So we're pleased that we got this grant, but we also now need that 50% cost share from the CSA folks. And so what that means is, here's this, the proposed budget for fiscal year 2024. And in the first column, you can see all of our projected costs. So we show a beginning balance of $1,173,537. We have the revenue, which are the sewer service charges of $598,000 right here. And then the revenue, which I mentioned that we received FEMA funding, was $289,174. So that gives us a total revenue. We start off with $2,060,746. But we have expenditures, and our M&O will be about 502,076, and these are all projected costs. So each year we have to start looking at how much we're going to be ending at the fiscal year. And so our costs total are about 1.7 million. And so given the revenue and our expenditure totals, we have an ending balance of 312,980. And then with the EQ tank cost, we plugged it in here in the proposed budget for 2024, 25. We're showing this revenue cost of 661,630. So that interprets into a 10% proposed rate increase for folks. And so we'll be able to pay for that EQ tank replacement. And we show the revenue up here of the IRWIM grant. And we take into account our M&O, spill response, generator repair, everything that it takes to maintain that wastewater treatment system. And so at the end of next year's fiscal year, we would have an estimated ending balance of $118,000. And I will show you, I can always go back to this, but the proposed rate increase and 3-year future rate increases. So for single family dwellings, currently you pay $2,497.74. So the proposed rate increase is $2,747.52. There's 163 condos that pay $2,251 with 91 cents, and the proposed rate increase is $2,477.10. And then we've got the commercial flat rate, which is $1,723.34, with a proposed rate increase of $1,895.67. So increasing the service charges would bring in this revenue, $661,630.17. And then for future increases, we show a 5% CPI, the consumer price index of, assuming that it's 5%. So you can see a breakdown of what the proposed rate increases would be for the future. And I do want to share that some of the rate history that we have. In prior years, we've done 4.5%. These have been CPI, except in 2021, when CPI was 2.5%, and we proposed a rate increase at 4.5%, and that was just right before COVID hit. And then we have CPI at 2%, 4.2 and 4.9. And then in 24-25, we have a 10% rate increase, and CPI this year is 2.6. And then I break it down to show folks how much a single family home and condo would be paying, the difference with the current rates, and then the proposed rates would be a monthly increase for single family homes of $20.82. For condos, it would be at $18.77 per month. And then the commercial flat rate would be about $14.36 per month. But let's see. And then for the sewer service charges, the approval of the timeline, we do have a board meeting March 12th, where we're taking this proposal to the Board of Supervisors, where we set a public hearing, and they approve the public hearing notice that gets mailed out to each of the property owners, informing them of the proposed rate increase. And then the public hearing is April 30th, where there could be a majority protest if if folks oppose this proposed 10% rate increase. And then if it proceeds, if there's no majority protest, then we can proceed to June 4th, where the Board of Supervisors adopts a resolution. And then they accept, there's a public hearing for the sewer service charge report that outlines what each parcel will be paying for the upcoming fiscal year. And the sewer service charges are collected annually through the property taxes, and then those go into effect July 1st. And I am available for any questions. And then Isaac too is our Chief Treatment Plant Operator. He's on. And I do have Tiffany available. She's our Public Information Officer, and Matt Machado also available for questions. And I know I probably ran through that really quickly, but I think we've allotted 2 hours for this, so feel free to ask any questions. Yeah, are folks able to use the chat feature? Yeah, I see the chat. I don't see any questions. Matt, did you want to add anything? Or Tiffany?
No, thank you, B. I thought it was a good presentation. It was concise. I can't see how many people are in the meeting. Do you know how many are?
There's 19 participants.
19? Okay. Well, if people don't have comments or questions, that's okay. We're always available,
Yeah.
you know, throughout the work week. So people can always reach out to us. And I would suspect if people want a copy of this PowerPoint, we could send that to them as well. I think you've got a lot of great information in here.
It looks like we do have a comment on our Q&A from Rochelle. Could you please show the slides again as we wait for questions? If there's a particular slide that you would like us to show, please let us know, or else we'll run through them slowly. Just as a reminder, if you do have any questions, feel free to use a chat feature or Q&A feature, or feel free to raise your hand. We have a question from Rochelle. Does the proposed budget for 25-26 include the rate increases?
It does. Let me go to that slide. So we assume a CPI of 5% annually. Of course, that CPI can change as given the rate history, or the CPI rate increase. It's varied from 2.5, 2.6, and I can go to that. It's been 4.5. In 2021, CPI was 2.5, and that's when I increased it to 4.5 right before COVID hit. All was shut down, and then it's varied 2%, 4.2, 4.9, and this year's CPI is at 2.6.
Probably worth mentioning that at that March 12th meeting, it's an open meeting with the Board of Supervisors, so people can certainly come to that meeting and ask questions. And we will be there if anybody wants to discuss any of these topics in person.
We do have another question in our chat by Mary Beth. Does the rate increase require a vote by customers, or does it go through automatically if there is no, and then parentheses, or limited and parentheses protest?
So it is a written majority protest, and that's 51% majority would have to protest against this rate increase.
Otherwise, it would automatically pass. That's correct.
I think the other thing that I'd like to add is, like I mentioned, that engineering staff worked really hard to obtain that grant from Irwin for the EQ tank. And we have deadlines, a timeline to be able to use up that money. So we really want to take advantage of the $405,000 that they were able to secure. And it benefits the CSA because it reduces hauling. It's safe for our operations staff to be able to maintain it from above. So right now, we've been having a lot of grease buildup in that existing tank, and we just can't utilize that whole the 50,000 gallons before we have to go up there and have to haul. So it'll reduce some of the M&O.
We have another question from Mary Beth. So the 1% is the protest threshold. That seems very low. What number of SFDs/condos are on the system?
So right here, we have single family dwellings. We have 88 connections, condos, 163. And then the commercial rate, we have 3.
There are no other pending questions. If we want to just give a few minutes for people to type in any additional questions or not, if everyone's okay with concluding the meeting, we can conclude that at 6:35. Hey, do you want to go to the last slide with your contact information? That way, if people can, there we go, save that information in case they have any questions outside of this meeting. We have one more question on the Q&A from Rochelle. So does the rate increase is mostly to cover the new tank?
That's correct. I can jump over that page and explain that a little bit more. Here's our total revenue for, this is the proposed budget. So we'll roll over 312,980 into the next fiscal year. We show the IRWIM grant right here at 405,312, and then the sewer service charges to bring in a total revenue of 1.3 million, or 1,379,922. And then we have the EQ tank replacement, which is part of our maintenance and improvement expenditures. And so that has a 1.1 million, 76,975 for M&O, and then there's admin, contract management. And so expenditure totals are 1,261,491 right here with the everything in number 1 and 2, M&O and admin. And that gives us an ending balance of 118,431 for next fiscal year. And so with the proposed budget, of 25-26, we roll over that beginning balance and bring in more revenue with sewer service charges collecting that. And we broke up the cost of that EQ tank replacement into 2 fiscal years, so we have some cost into year 25-26, so that's how we're showing the improvement being paid out with the collection of the sewer service charges.
I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat or the Q&A.
Well, thank you all for participating. And then if there's any questions, again, feel free to give us a call or email us. We're always available to answer any questions.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.